The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
If you really want to doge, this is how you doge. You don't vote for bad legislation that expands government. Thank you.
Now we're talking about taxpayer money, and we're talking about accountability. It is their money. This isn't a government program we're actually spending on. We're actually giving it back to the people of Idaho.
There's other options for making our ballots more secure, such as using watermarks or putting holograms on the ballots.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
I asked the question rhetorically, if we gave them another $1 billion, they wouldn't be happy. Well, we've given them $2 more billion, and it's not enough.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
Other states like Texas and Florida have enacted similar laws to address illegal immigration, both locally and in their communities. And Idaho has the right to protect itself when the federal government has failed to do that.
COVID presented us with quite the enigma. We didn't really know what it was or what to do, but that is no excuse to violate the rights of the citizens of the state of Idaho.
I say vote no on this and let the teachers teach and quit bringing in coaches to teach the teachers to teach, and let's get education going again in Idaho.
I don't know what's coming after this current administration for the feds, and we need this law because our federal laws on immigration have failed.
Mr. President, I think it's incumbent upon us to allow parents to use their hard-earned dollars to provide what's best for their children.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
My concern is that the resilience of Idahoans who believe in self-reliance and self-responsibility will be eroded.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Yeah, watch it.
Come on.
And it just so happened it was a constituent of mine who was my brother-in-law. And for the last 25 plus years, he's worked with youth as a youth pastor at our church. He was recently just appointed to the associate pastor position. And he called me and he said, hey, I need some help. I said, yeah, what's going on? He said, I'm meeting with local law enforcement today. I'm meeting with superintendents, teachers, and other faith leaders. And we're meeting to discuss the kids here in the Treasure Valley. And I said, well, what's going on with the kids here in the Treasure Valley? And he said, they're killing themselves. And I just paused for a minute. I'm like, wow, where was I at? How did I not recognize this problem was going across the Treasure Valley? I said, so what's the common theme? He said, social media. These kids are faced with something that we never had growing up. These kids are subjected to, by carrying a phone in their hand, cyberbullying, human trafficking. We've done a few pieces of legislation on human trafficking. The pressures from these social media platforms, these kids aren't ready to deal with that. It's one thing for someone to cyberbully one of us in this room as a public servant. But when you're a kid dealing with some unknown profile on a social media platform, the way in which they respond to that is entirely different. If you look at a couple of the handouts I gave you, one of the comments from one of the founding presidents of Facebook said, we intentionally made the platform to be addictive. It messes with your psychology when all of a sudden your reward system is activated when you see a like, when you see a comment, when you see a share. Something addictive happens. What is that? Dopamine. The dopamine hit that you get from a social media addiction is the same as any lethal drug. And they've intentionally built these platforms. You can look at the handout. They built these platforms knowingly that they're addicting our youth to something they can't say no to. Across the United States right now, from the federal level all the way down to the state level, legislatures are wrestling with how do we solve this. The other handout just came out to me this morning. 40 attorneys generals have already gone after and are trying to sue Meta. we got a problem. What are we going to do? All the bills that have been presented nationally so far are struck down. There's no First Amendment that they have the ability to advertise to these kids. So what we've crafted here is intentionally around what has been struck down in the other state legislatures so far. We're going after the addiction component, and we absolutely have constitutional grounds to go after that. Here in the state of Idaho, we have said you can't have vaping unless you're 21. You can't drink unless you're 21. You can't go any kind of tobacco products unless you're 21. Addiction. And that's what this bill is crafted around, is addiction, not content. You go into content, you start getting into First Amendment right issues. You go after addiction, you can regulate that on the Constitution all day long. So this legislation will require social media platforms to use the same technology that they use to target everyone in this room and every child in Idaho, from bad for good. So right now our phones are listening to us. If you've had a friend on Facebook post, hey, I'm trying to get a new algorithm, my algorithm really is terrible, you'll see people write those statuses. That doesn't work. The way that social media platforms are designed, they listen and they learn. They authenticate every 25 hours. If you went to Home Depot and you were looking up something for a home project, all of a sudden on your Facebook feed, you're looking at ads from Home Depot. They learn, and they learn. And so what we're going to make them do is take that exact technology that you're using to market our kids to authenticate the age every 25 hours. Because kids can't help themselves. Kids will act like kids. So it's going to know, okay, you're going after more of a childlike interest. Cat videos. Okay, they're interested in fly fishing. These platforms are intelligent and they learn. So we're going to require that they learn and they authenticate. And then if they're below the age of 16 and the parent gives them consent, that's different. We're putting parents in the driver's seat. You can't come for our kids. You can't target our kids without parental consent. If the parent says, I've got a phenom, my kid's amazing, I want him out there on social media, I want the world to see what he can do, great. Then put the parent in the driver's seat and let them authenticate that, but you're not going to go after our kids and solicit our kids without parental consent. All these companies that we're talking about are the big ones. You know the ones I'm talking about. Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, X, Instagram. All the companies that are generating over $1 billion a year in advertising revenue on our kids. Something has to be done. We have to change the trajectory for these kids. Body dysmorphia issues, if you look at the statistics there, girls are the #1 category. They're seeing something that isn't real, and they can't equate themselves to that. They're looking at themselves online where these kids are eating at 5-star restaurants, traveling the world with no job. How can I get ahead? Bitcoin trading, and these kids are crypto millionaires below age of 21. I'm behind. How do I catch up? Imagine being a kid today that instead of playing Nintendo Entertainment System or riding a fat skateboard down the road or playing until it's dark at night, you're walking around doom scrolling all day long. We've all seen it. Whether you're driving in a car and you look over and see that kid on his phone, or whether you walk Restaurant Row in downtown Boise and you nearly bump into a kid who's addicted to doom scrolling. We're going after these companies and saying stop. Enough is enough. Put the parents in the driver's seat. Let them make the decision for their kid. So with that, I yield to any questions or urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the motion. It's for debate on the motion. Gentleman 28.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to debate the motion.
Gentleman has the floor.
You know, when I read this piece of legislation, I thought, you know what a great idea. This is something we really need to get behind. And then I got to page 6, section 48-2105, paragraph 2. And when it came to a private right of action to clog up our courts with small lawsuits over this, when the Attorney General has the authority to enforce this in this bill, I have a problem with that. I don't like private rights of action. I think that if we're protecting a public benefit, then the public should be enforcing this through the Attorney General's office. And if that were not there, I'd be behind it 110%. Thank you.
For the debate on the motion, gentleman 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to debate in support of the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you. You know, we're all addicted to this. There's no doubt about it. Every one of us. However, we now have statistical evidence of what's actually happened In January of this year, Dr. Horvath, who's a neuroscientist, testified in front of the U.S. Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. And he said we now have statistical evidence that this is the first generation, Generation Z, that is less intelligent than the previous generation. And the reason for that is social media. Because this generation, unfortunately, has lost the ability to reason because answers are available to them immediately through their social media platforms, through searching on Google to looking at Facebook or TikTok or wherever the latest ones are, I don't know. This is a very scary and dangerous trend. We have been tracking generational intelligence since the mid-19th century, and every single generation has been smarter than the previous generation. Generation Z is less intelligent than the previous generation, and it is because of these devices. I am very happy that the good gentleman from 12 has brought this bill, and I urge your green light.
For the debate on the motion, gentleman 10.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor of the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, this came through State Affairs and passed well, and I support the bill. But in response to the good gentleman from 28 as to private rights of action, this body over the last many years has passed multiple bills for private rights of action. And always someone stands up and says, this is going to bring a plethora of lawsuits. We're going to be hunting down people for lawsuits. This has not happened with all the bills we've passed here. I am aware of one with all the bills we've passed that there is a private right of action taken. There may be a few others I'm not aware, and I know of one that's going to be filed. So if you're going to vote against the bill for that reason, please do not. It simply is not the case that people go out and file multitudes of lawsuits on these private rights of action. Thank you.
For the debate on the motion. Hearing none, would the gentleman from 12 care to close the debate?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the point that gentleman from 28 has raised. We chose not to go the criminal route. We chose to go the civil route. And the courts have broad authorities to throw out frivolous lawsuits or any concern like that. We just don't see consistently that that is happening. And I know that's thrown over as a looming fear. What about? But the reality is it doesn't happen. And to reference an existing law, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if I need unanimous consent to do that.
If it's current statute, you do not.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 500, where we save women's sports. We were the first in the nation to lead that. And if you go look down in the bottom of that piece of legislation, you're going to see we used a civil cause of action. So we chose not to go the criminal route. We chose to go the civil route, level the playing field between the citizens and the courts. So with that, I urge your green light, and let's lead the nation on this.
Thank you, gentlemen. Debate is closed. Question is to House Bill 542, pass the House. Clerk will lock the machine. Members will cast their votes.
All right, folks, you've been watching here the debate on House Bill 542. We're going to stick with this shot and watch as the bill flies through the House.
Rubel, Monks. Does anyone wish to change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine and record the roll.
Okay, there it is.
62 ayes, 7 nay, 1 absent and excused. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 542. House Bill 542 has passed the House. Is there correction in title?
No correction in title.
Hearing none, the title is approved. The bill will be transferred to the Senate. The House will now have before it House Bill 500. Good gentleman from 19.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to dispense with the further reading of House Bill 500.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, gentleman has the floor.
All right, folks. You just watched 540.
To address advances in technology. This
Am I live? Can you bring me live?
Loophole and provide some accountability to promote safety.
All right, folks, I don't know if anybody heard what I said before, but welcome to the program. 542, House Bill 542, you just saw the full debate there. As we went live, Representative Jaron Crane was presenting the bill before the body. It got a few remarks there, and then it basically sailed through on that. Interesting bill there. I think it's gonna have a hard time in the Senate. I think there might be some more debate over there. The intention is good. But like you said, there are some concerns about how to go about doing that. I mean, I for one am always someone that says, "Hey, man, we got to start at home. We got to get these phones out of our kids' hands." But what do you do with the kids that already have them? So it's a tough beat to be in. But we'll see if this bill is the right answer or not. As it goes through the debate. We'll have some more folks on this to talk about this. If you're interested in hearing more about it, we will have those folks on to talk about it. So let's do that. All right, folks. What's going on today? What time is it? We're already 44 minutes past the hour. And it is February 9, 2026. And my name is Matt Edwards. I believe Brian Allman is with us. If he is, we'll bring him in here in just a minute. There was a lot of stuff going on in JFAC this morning. JFAC, of course, the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee, where they're setting the budgets. We've already got the conformity tax bill that went through, so that way we can have the big, beautiful bill from the federal government, the tax incentives, the tax, what do you call it? The no tax on tips. No tax on overtime, to have those implemented for your Idaho income tax reports as well, which is a good thing to have that be for retroactive to last year for that. So, but in JFAC this morning, they were cutting a lot of bills this morning. Let's take a look at this first clip here, guys. If you throw up that JFAC clip, I see the vote tally there, and we can go through that. Let's see what that one's all about.
Significant budget surplus for a lot of these projects, and so it was trying to work through on how these would come together and work on them.
Mr. Chair.
Would you like another follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Winthrop, go ahead.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chair, and maybe I see Ms. Wolf is here. Maybe she can lend a little bit more information. I'm very concerned about some of those projects because they're reentry centers, they're juvenile corrections, they're things that really help people transition in community. The Carnegie Library is just across the street, all boarded up, looking pretty bad. So maybe could Ms. Wolf kind of talk about that?
If Ms. Wolf wants to come forward, she's more than welcome to come forward and state it. Just state your name and title for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Lori Wolf, Administrator for Division of Financial Management. Mr. Chair and Senator Winthrop, thank you for the question. There's a little bit of a mix, but some of them, yes, were decided outside of just the budget constraints. The juvenile corrections one, that was something that we were going to do in coordination with Department of Health and Welfare. There were some restrictions, federal restrictions about housing some of those kids together, so we're finding alternative solutions to addressing that. The Carnegie Library, the state has not moved forward on that sale, so that was canceled. The two for corrections and Idaho State Police, both of those, I think future we will move forward. We had some difficulty with the corrections one actually finding a location for that reentry center. They've tried a couple in Coeur d'Alene area and then moved to Lewiston. Both of those sites fell through. So they have a lot of bed space coming online in the next 2 years. We're going to focus on getting those up and going and then hopefully be able to pursue an additional North Idaho Reentry Center at a later date.
Thank you, Mrs.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. I got some sleep over the weekend.
What's going on?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Right.
Just for a brief comment, I guess what I'm concerned about in some of these cash transfers is that we appropriated that funds when we had the cash and we said these were important projects, and now we're saying because we have revenue shortfalls they're not important projects anymore when they really are, and that's what my concern is overall. So appreciate you fleshing that out. Thank you, Ms. Wolf.
Yeah, thanks Senator Winthrop there. But that's what happens when you need to cut, right? You say, oh, we have all this cash, so let's start this new program or let's fund this new thing, and then the next year comes around and goes, oh, actually we can't afford that. Happens around my house a lot. My wife comes in and says, oh my goodness, we should take care of that. And then we say, okay, let's use this chunk of money to do that. And then the year comes around and we go, oh my goodness, look at the price of this and look at the price of that. I guess we're not doing that anymore. So that's what happens. That's what happens when you have to cut, right? That's what happens. And that's what was happening this morning. We saw money that was appropriated or set aside, if you will, for certain things being taken out of that dedicated fund and thrown back into the general fund. And that's what we need to see more of. So that was what was going on in JFAC. Once we get Allman in here a little bit later, he can walk us through some of that. But also this morning, though, folks, this morning in the House State Affairs Committee, it was a long committee hearing this morning as the flag bill was back. Man, I'm telling you, before we get into these clips, this is one of those things that is so frustrating, because I understand the frustration, right? There are people out there who see that flag and they go, what can we do to get rid of that flag? And you want immediate remedy. So, short of committing lawlessness, which is to go up every day and tear down the flag, and commit some sort of, vandalism, you want somebody to do something. And since your mayor won't do something because she's the one that put it up, and your police department won't do something because they're controlled by the mayor, you have to wait. Your only remedy is to wait for another election so you can vote different people in to get rid of that stupid flag. Or you complain to your legislature, and your legislature comes in and says that flag can't be flown. Or they have to figure out some wording so that they can get rid of that flag. And then the mayor does an end around and says, well, if you're only going to allow official city flags, we'll make this an official city flag. And then you're back saying, okay, well, you can't have official city flags have to be adopted before, 2023. So it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this is the kind of, normally I would say this is a bunch of noise, right? But it's a fascinating study in how government reacts to the people's demands for things. And so we're going to follow this drama along. Let's show this first clip here. We're going to jump to the end and then work our way back. Representative Ted Hill is the House sponsor for this new version of what we're calling the flag bill to address when Boise is flying the pride flag. And it's House Bill 561. Let's take a peek here with Representative Hill.
I'm going to address something that was an issue for me, Mr. Stidham. I was a Cold War warrior. I faced the Soviet bear. And he calls me Soviet style. Okay, I don't know if he's out there with me or not, but referenced me as being cowardly. I'm not going to let that go unanswered. And I will request an apology from him. That does not go unanswered.
Okay, let's skip to the merits of the bill.
Yes, sir.
And keep the emotions down. There's been, we want to make sure that it's just the facts, ma'am, here. Let's talk about the bill.
Okay, the Bass flag, that was good to hear that. That was, if there can be some allowances on that, that would be great, because that would be a good thing. We must remember all these flags can be flown temporarily in parades and assemblies and all this. They can have, when I said there were communist flags out in front of the Capitol, there are during demonstrations. You can have all these flags anywhere you want. You just can't put them up the government flagpoles. The whole objective here is to contain that. And this local question, this is what is interesting to listen to. It says, well, you can vote for or against. Well, if the majority, 51%, we're going to put up this flag, and it's very ideological, political, and offensive to the 49%. Tough beans, you got to eat it until we have another election. Well, why don't you not do that and make a flag for everybody? That's the whole objective here, because that is, you say Soviet style. Well, what if it's something extremely offensive? If it's a MAGA flag, or if it's a Christian flag in this case, and force that on everybody else, that's not fair. That's the whole objective here. So they're saying it's local control, but local control can be oppressive and shoving these agendas down someone's throat that actually doesn't include everybody. The term inclusive is an entertaining term because it really includes me when that term is used. It's inclusive just for some, and it's very selective. Want to make sure that was pretty much it. I want to make sure that the government, repeat myself on this, all these other flags and the collateral damage, they can be moved. They can still be in other places. They just can't be up the government flagpoles. Because if you do allow this, then the encroachment of, okay, well, we can do this and we'll start doing some other things. This country is so politicized right now. activists are going to look for opportunities wherever they can, and they will interject it wherever they can. This kind of like stops it, gets us back to let's have a political discourse from the government. It is fair for everybody, and there isn't any other distractions, whatever that might be, and that's very fair. And that's the whole objective of this. There is no animus against a group at all. I never even referred to that group at all. It's just we want to bring it all together. It's fair for everybody. Representative Alfieri made that comment also, and I appreciate that. And that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, the bill, no need to bury the lead here. The bill did pass committee. There was quite a few motions, a lot of debate going through, but the bill does head to the floor for a full vote. But that isn't without some very interesting comments. You saw in that first clip there that right at the top, Representative Hill took offense to the bill being called cowardly. And we'll cover more of that. I believe we do have Brian Allman ready to go here. Hey, there's Brian Allman. Happy Monday to you, sir. Welcome in. This term cowardly, the bill was called cowardly. Representative Hill may have been called cowardly. What was the history of that this morning?
Yeah, that was interesting watching that hearing this morning in State Affairs. So the guy he was referring to that he wanted an apology from was Mr. Stidham, who is the lawyer who is representing Boise in this case and giving them legal counsel on how to, essentially, in my view, how to skirt the law, to find a loophole. And it was real quick of note that Representative Hawes, who was recently appointed to the legislature, from Boise, had to declare a Rule 80, which is a conflict of interest, because she actually works at the same law firm as Mr. Stidham, who is representing Boise here. Legislators are allowed to have conflicts of interest as long as they disclose them. So he was really taking issue with the bill, obviously, because it's he's representing Boise. He's representing Boise pro bono here. He's not taking any payments, which shows how much apparently he and his law firm care about this. And he started going down the list saying that this is Soviet-style control, telling cities what they can and can't say, establishing one uniform flag for everybody. And then he started looking at some of the things in there, talking about like the $2,000 a day fine that is in there, and saying it's cowardly. And he kept repeating that word, cowardly. The bill is cowardly, and the sponsor seems to be cowardly. And obviously, Representative Hill is not going to take kindly to that. And Representative Scott even objected to it because, when you're in committee testifying, you're not supposed to impugn motives. You're not supposed to say that the people sponsoring this bill or opposing this bill are doing it for all these various nefarious reasons. You're just supposed to debate the merits of the bill.
Well, I find that the term cowardly just seems kind of like I still don't understand what it means to be cowardly by them trying to put in a fine here, unless he's trying to challenge the state, challenge the legislature to send in ISP, send ISP with an Idaho flag, marching down Capitol to the front of the building and then taking down the pride flag and hoisting up another Idaho flag. I mean, that's literally what would have been done 1,000 years ago, right? When you see the flag of your opponent, your enemy, or some nefarious occupiers, you march down and you try and take them out. So if that's what he means by not cowardly, I'm trying to figure that out. Okay. Anyway, well, let's move on to there were some other interesting opinions regarding this flag. One from somebody who was testifying remotely. I presume your average Boise citizen here. Very interesting. Let's listen to this and let the audience take this in.
And gentlemen, members of the committee, and to the citizens of the great state of Idaho, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to testify about the legislation under consideration today. My name is Charlie Beal. I am the president of the Gilbert Baker Foundation. Gilbert Baker created the rainbow flag in San Francisco in 1978. He was a dear friend, and after he passed, friends and supporters formed our foundation to continue his work and to carry on his legacy of hope. One of our most important initiatives that we have created is called Save the Rainbow Flag. We act as a support system and a clearinghouse of information for citizens in towns and school districts across the nation who are trying to engage and provide information to people who want to ban the rainbow flag from public display. What we've learned from our work on this award-winning initiative is that sometimes people don't understand why the rainbow flag was created and what it means. Let me state simply, there is no L stripe, no G stripe, no B stripe, or T stripe in the rainbow flag. When Gilbert Baker created the rainbow flag, he imbued it with the simple meaning that it represented the rainbow of humanity. He did this to emphasize the inclusion of sexual and gender minorities in this rainbow of humanity in hopes that people in these communities could achieve equality in laws, legislation, and in society in general. Since its creation, the rainbow flag has become one of the 8 most recognizable symbols in the world. It's a global symbol of hope that has helped many sexual and gender minorities take that first cautious step out of the darkness of the closet and into the light of freedom. To ban this flag is to condemn these people to a status that is less than equal and to a life lived in fear. So I ask you to think long and hard about what kind of message these restrictive types of legislation send to vulnerable people. And these aren't strangers. These are your sisters, your brothers, your cousins, aunts, and uncles. These are your family, the family we call the rainbow of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Are there questions for Charles? Representative Scott has a question for you, Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Charles. My question is, do you or your founder, who've come up with this idea of the rainbow flag representing sexual things, do you realize that this was something that very many Christians hold the rainbow colors and the rainbow symbol as a biblical truth from God himself? Were you aware of this when the flag came to be, or was that?
Well,
Charles?
I would like to say simply, as a historian and a vexillographer and a vexillologist myself, a member of the North American Vexillology Association, the rainbow flag, in a way, predates even the story of Noah and the ark. That's what you're referring to. It can be found on cave paintings back in Bolivia and Australia 10,000 years ago. I give lectures about the history of the rainbow and its symbolism. This flag respects all that history. This flag is just another step and another step in a message of hope that was written into the Bible. This flag represents hope that we include everybody in the rainbow of humanity and to our family. So, the idea of excluding people, we've seen flags that represent people, excluding people. And I don't think that the fact that the rainbow is in the Bible means that is an exclusive use, because, as I said, I give long lectures on this, and it goes back to the Bundschuh movement in Germany in the 1970s, the cooperative movement in the United States. Somebody actually proposed to use the rainbow flag as an international flag in the 1950s, and Thomas Paine wanted to fly the rainbow flag on American ships during the American Revolution in international waters to proclaim our neutrality. Gilbert Baker didn't claim to invent the first rainbow flag. He liked to say, I put it to work.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Yeah, Brian, wow. I feel like it's time for an Idaho signal after dark, so we can just break all of that down. Before we get into the rainbow flag predating Noah, he said that his work here is he's been fighting to ban. He's been fighting against bans of the pride flag from public display. That's not what this does. This bill is not banning the public display of the pride flag. It's banning city government from flying the pride flag alongside the American and Idaho flags.
Right, and there were several others. I think it was one of the two Democrats, Representative Church or Representative Hawes, maybe both, were going straight to the Nazi comparison, saying that this is just like 1935 Nazi Germany, saying that you're not allowed to fly any flag but the swastika, which obviously this is nothing like that. This is just saying that government buildings should not be taking a side, taking a position in this cultural conflict. And I think what Mr. Beal there said, He's trying to play a game here where he's switching two things. He's trying to say that the rainbow flag actually represents everybody, including LGBTQ plus people, and therefore we should have no problem flying it because it represents all of humanity. But at the same time, I think it's pretty clearly understood that this represents, that LGBTQ plus whatever community, which is, by its very nature, excluding people. It's exclusive. It's saying that this one group of people, based on whatever, are, we're specially singling them out for recognition. And you heard that in the rest of the testimony, saying that this group has been marginalized and oppressed over so long. That's why we need this flag. They weren't trying to make the point that this just represents everybody. Representative Hill has points out that it's the American flag that represents everybody, not these other flags.
Yeah, exactly. And if the flag truly was meant to unify everybody and be a rainbow of humanity, then I'm sorry to say, sir, but your flag was co-opted. It was co-opted by the LGBT mafia. I mean that's exact, because that's what happened here, because that's what's going on. So I'm just. His entire argument was bizarre. And can we just now comment on the fact that he thinks that the rainbow, yes, were rainbows drawn by cavemen? Sure, because rainbows appear in the sky. But this whole notion that the rainbow flag and this motif of humanity, that the Bible decided to include that in its writings.
I don't know really what else to say. Did God forget to file a trademark filing for the rainbow, and now it's owned by the LGBTQ community?
Yeah,
and they're trying to extend that back. I don't think cavemen were putting rainbows on cave walls to represent the things that flag represents today. And I don't think Thomas Paine was meaning for the rainbow flag, if that's true. I haven't heard that story, to represent sexual minorities, as somebody else said in the testimony. It's like trying to attach a lot of history to a much more modern movement in order to give it a lot more cachet and gravitas that it doesn't really have.
Yes, and I would also contend that maybe the original rainbow flag with the 6 stripes, that's not the flag they're flying up there. They're flying this flag with the triangles and the circles and all the different colors and all that stuff. Like it looks a lot different than what they had today. And there was a question. Do we have that clip? Do we have a clip about someone being asked about all the other various things that may come in the future? Is that right? Go ahead and play it if we have it.
Didn't answer my question, Madam Mayor. What does the L stand for, the B, the G? Tell me what those letters are. I don't know all of them.
Oh, sure.
Mayor McLean.
Which letters would you like me, Mr. Chairman?
And there's a plus also on there. I don't know what all that means. So the first one is lesbian, and if I'm correct, what do the others stand for?
LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer.
Any further questions? Representative Scott.
Isn't there a plus on that?
There some folks do include a plus. In my comments, I did not include a plus. So
follow up. Last follow up. I apologize, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Mayor. What does the trans mean? What is that?
Mayor McLean.
Mr. Chairman, I'm here to talk about a flag, and I want to be clear that the pride flag is an expression of welcoming all people, and it is my job to ensure that we see and welcome everybody in our community, including folks that identify as trans. And I am honored to stand with them and for them, and very concerned about the attacks on that community and the characterizations of them because of the impacts that it has on members in our community.
Well, then stop flying the flag. Unbelievable. That was Mayor McLean from the Boise Mayor there, who was insisting on flying that flag. I commend her for showing up and defending her position and taking on the questions. Brian, what do you think?
Well, yeah, as she said in her testimony, this is the first time she's ever appeared before the legislature, and she's in her, 5th or 6th year of her mayorship. So I guess this is the one issue that she finds the most important to engage the legislature on. To be fair, the legislature is, to an extent, coming after something that she chose to do to find a loophole to avoid having to take down the pride flag. Remember, Boise used to fly it just for a couple days or in the month of June to show solidarity with Pride Month, which, I have a problem with already. But then they take it down and just have the American flag, the Boise flag, the Idaho flag, and maybe special occasion flags. At some point, Mayor McLean chose to just keep it up after June, and it became a permanent fixture in front of the Boise City Hall. So,
Right.
yeah, and contrary to what Mr. Beal said, it's not there to represent everybody. It's, testifier after testifier after testifier was saying this flag represents a marginalized, vulnerable community, which by its very nature is exclusive. This flag, whatever they, however McLean wants to say it or however anyone else wants to say it, it represents, sexual minorities, people who are different in some way, whether through their own choices or whatever. I'm not going to get into that, but it's deliberately excluding people who are generally, heterosexual, who believe that they are the sex that they were born as, which is the vast majority of people. Even in Boise, it's the majority of people, and yet it's a flag that's created to represent a minority, and it's up there 24/7, 365 over the city of Boise.
Yeah, which I want to show real quick, guys. Throw up this thread that I have here with the pride flag. This is something that I published last year, about almost a year ago now. And here is the original pride flag, the 6-color pride flag here. And over the years, they started to include some more colors and different, black and brown because they needed to include race into the mix. And then the transgenders came around, and you had to have transgender colors, which is the blue and pink and white. And then you get this guy here. This is the new progress flag. You got the original pride. You got the black and brown chevrons here, along with the trans chevrons. Then you have those. Although brown is also representative of people who are living or have died from HIV/AIDS. There's that as well. The circle. I think the circle is for the asexual people. I don't know. But again,
community.
Yeah. Here's the rarest pride flag, the intersex flag. That's what the circle means, intersex. And then here's the asexual flag. Here's the bisexual flag, which actually has 3 colors on it.
Weird, since bi means 2.
Yeah. The pansexual. Here, and this one I found the most amusing. This is the heterosexual. This is what they gave us, the heterosexual flags. They gave us prison garb because that's where they'd like to see us in black and whites, right? Yeah.
Well, sometimes things are just in black and white, right?
Exactly. Yeah, but that's I think that's where they want to see us. So anyway, you can head over to my X account. I'll tell you what. I'll do this. Well, actually, I can't right at the moment. We're logged in on the CAI site. But anyway, yeah, you could take this down. Anyway, Brian, that's neither here nor there, I guess. But this fight goes to the floor now. Yeah, final word on it. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is what you just said is showing. I don't know if there's an official rainbow flag or pride flag organization. You get all these different little groups or people who start adding their own ideas, and that sometimes it catches on, sometimes it doesn't. I think one takeaway is that vexillology is perhaps a mistake because they get way into these things. Obviously, as we saw from Mr. Beal's testimony. But on the other hand, as you've said before, flags represent something. Flags represent a people, a culture, an idea. And when the flag goes up, that represents conquest of a place by that people, culture, or idea. And flying a flag is not just a welcoming thing. It's saying this is what we stand for. And conversely, this is what we don't stand for if you're not flying the flag. I thought, we didn't mention it here, but Lynn Bradisku's point that she asked them to fly the Israeli flag following the October 7th events over there, and they denied her with just a basic form letter, and the committee was really. I think that was a big issue for them because it showed that this wasn't about representation. This was the city of Boise, the mayor, and 5 of the council members picking and choosing who they're going to represent and who they're going to exclude.
Yep, this is exactly it. Your city has been conquered, Boise. Your city has been conquered by the alphabet mafia, and you got to live with it until you're going to do something about it. Either you like it or you don't. If you like it, there you don't. But your city has been conquered. Yeah, check out our op-ed over there on Blaze Media about being conquered with and showing that by flags. Okay, Brian, real quick this morning, we folks, we expect to have hopefully Cornell Razor on the program talk about his bill here shortly. But before you go, Brian, real quickly, this morning in JFAC, they were cutting away, weren't they?
Yeah, they made 3 motions this morning to essentially rescind money that had been appropriated. So last year, the legislature passed all these budget bills. They appropriate money here, money here, money here. Well, this year, now with the lower than expected revenue, you've got the governor saying 3% cuts here, and the governor's budget recommends that they cut back on this program, this program, this program, and that's what they did. They took back, what was it, $33 million from the Capitol Building Fund, and as Administrator Wolf said, that these were projects that have already they're decided not to go forward at this time. So the money's just sitting there. And then there was another 15 million from another fund. I forget which one off the top of my head. And then 10 million, this is the most interesting one, $10 million for this year and potentially next year from the In-Demand Careers Fund, which is essentially the governor's launch grant. That's his baby that he's, really had been his number one priority for several years now. $80 million was appropriated by the legislature last year for students, high school graduates to take to career and technical education or training or, whatever. And apparently, in this exchange with, some of the Democrats, it turns out that some of them apparently did not go to school, or they changed their mind, or they were starting school, but they fell below some eligibility threshold. And so the money had to be returned to the In-Demand Careers Fund. And now they have that extra money just sitting there. And the governor is saying essentially, okay, you can take a little bit of this money, but please don't eliminate the program.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, one thing at a time, I guess. Brian, good to see you. We'll let you get on your way back on the road there. Where can people follow you and find your stuff?
At Brian Allman on X. This morning I was doing live tweets. Actually, the Gem State Chronicle itself has a at Gem State Chron account, and you can see it retweeted on my account. So just go there. But I was doing live threads of this morning's hearings. So interesting stuff there.
Great, very good. All right, my friend. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.
Okay. All right, folks. Let's do this. Let's take a short break. We have Representative Cornell Razor on the other side of the break right after this.
That's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among the world's silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Last week on Friday, Representative Cornell Razor presented a bill in the House State Affairs Committee. It got printed, and but we weren't able to read it until just now because it just got put up on the legislative site within the last hour or so since we've been on the air. But we have the expert in the room with us anyway. Representative Razor, welcome to the program. Thank you for thank you for joining us. Like I said, your House bill is now House Bill 606. It's known as, and we kind of want to walk through this a little bit on what this will do, because we know in your district something like this is going on.
Actually, it's happening all over the world and all over the country, but yeah,
true.
It finally came home to North Idaho. All right.
Yeah.
I guess that's a bad way to put it, Matt. It finally invaded North Idaho. Let's put it that way.
It invaded North Idaho, and that's the thing. I mean, we can look at the larger picture later, perhaps, but this is one of the freest states in the country, and we're trying to keep it that way. But we're not immune to this type of activity, and here we are. Unfortunately, we have to address this with legislation. So, walk us through this bill here a little bit.
So, what the bill does is it creates. Let me just give you. It prevents an individual from knowingly and intentionally entering an opposite sex designated government-owned or public restroom with clear exceptions. There are exceptions and graduated penalties. So it prevents or it gives a cause for someone who feels that someone has misrepresented themselves and entered their bathroom. It's any place of public accommodation. The exceptions, let me get those out in front here, to perform custodial services or maintenance, to render medical assistance, to provide law enforcement assistance, or to supervise any arrestee, detainee, or inmate in a custodial setting, to provide services or render aid during a natural disaster, during a declared emergency, or when necessary to prevent a serious threat to good order or safety, to use a single user facility designated for the opposite sex if such single user facility is the only facility reasonably available at the time of the person's use of the facility, to use restrooms, changing rooms, and sleeping quarters that have been temporarily designated for use by people of that person's biological sex. I don't know if you want me to go through all of these. They're right in the bill.
I mean, these are pretty obvious exceptions. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, what you're trying to do here is basically stop men from dressing as women and going to use these restrooms, which is it's appalling. It's absolutely appalling.
Yes, correct. And I'm sorry, I won't talk over you.
No, not at all. It happens with this type of format. But okay. So when you stood at the hearing and we played the clip, I believe on Friday, and you said you have pages of examples of this happening, and we don't have to go through all of that like you said there. But I mean, even from schools all the way into the public restroom. Again, this is one of those scenarios where it's kind of like. You hate to get government involved in this sort of thing, right? I mean, you're a small government guy, and you're a champion for that. But where did you see that the line was drawn and you had to get involved?
So what happened was there's in the particular situation that occurred in Sandpoint, there was nothing the woman could do when they made their complaint. There's nothing specific in statute, and statutes are interestingly and probably appropriately very specific. So, for example, we just passed a bill this morning that not criminalizes, but deals with electric assisted vehicles. Now, let me give you this, what happened. A recent court ruling found that drivers do not have a duty to avoid colliding with operators of electric assisted bicycles. Now, if you can wrap your head around that, that means if a car hits someone on a bicycle, a skateboard, or walking, that's against the law and it's chargeable. But if you hit someone on an electric assisted vehicle, which has heretofore not been in statute, a judge was forced to rule in the favor of the person who hit the person because it wasn't listed specifically. So this bill takes care of the situation we have where peeping Tom laws exist, but this is not a peeping Tom. This is a occupying Tom, if you will, actually in the bathroom. So that's why we have to get specific in order to provide for people to be able to bring this to court. Now, I'm working with a prosecuting attorney to give me a step-by-step outline of how this would work. You see a man coming out of coming out of the shower in a woman's bathroom. You turn it in, and what happens from there? And I don't have all that yet, but I quite frankly, I've never been arrested, so I don't know what the process is. I would like to keep it that way.
Yes.
But I'm going to get a prosecuting attorney to give me an outline of what the steps are, because that was one of the questions that came up in the RS presentation. So, and to differentiate, what I did Friday morning was I presented the RS, and then the committee decided whether or not to send it to printing to make it a bill. Right. And that's what they did that morning. And so now it's a bill, 606.
Right. So now, just to be clear here, though, if look, if a facility or somebody sees a man walking out of the women's restroom or vice versa, it has to be, you have to call. So you got to call the cops. You got to do something that says,
Right.
hey, but if somebody just lets someone go out of their own discretion, says, hey, get out of here, don't do that again, we'll have you arrested. I mean, are we going to go active? Are we actively going out there and hunting down wherever we saw this happen? No. Okay.
No, I mean, I could give you a long politician answer, but I think a single word suffices. No.
No.
We're not going to be going after. We're not going to be hunting people down.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Very good. Okay. All right. Well, how does this marry in with the recent bill to prevent the so-called sexual orientation, gender identity ordinances that I don't know. I think the House passed that bill last week, that where the state is saying to the cities, hey, you can't have these in here, because basically that's kind of like what got you in hot water, or what got the city of Sandpoint in hot water. They passed an ordinance, and then there was a complaint when somebody went into the a man went into the YMWCA or whatever it was, and
YMCA.
violated it there. So I think is this in addition to that, or do they conflict in some way?
They don't conflict. I had this bill written and ready to go long before I knew about 557, which is it basically creates uniformity in anti-discrimination bills across the state of Idaho. That is simply the fact that we had about 20 cities who had added SOGI to their ordinances. That those are the words that are occasionally, actually often used to put it in historical terms. I can't remember the Colorado Jack from Colorado, the baker.
Yes.
That's the kind of ordinance that he was sued under, because he wouldn't bake a cake that someone wanted for a wedding. I'll just leave it at that. And so that particular ordinance that was passed by the House, 557, was brought by Representative Bruce Skog, standardizes non-discrimination policies statewide, so that you don't have to wonder what you're walking into if you go into a different city. Mine simply makes it's very specific. It just makes it requires that you use this bathroom that conforms to your biological sex. That's all.
Yeah. And I would say that businesses should be, at least small businesses should be on board with this, because it also allows them a protection to say, hey, we're not breaking the law here. You can't do this. You got to use the restroom of your biological sex. And so I find that sometimes you hear the arguments that, like, oh, you're telling businesses what they can and can't do with their bathrooms. But this is Idaho. Most businesses want that protection because they don't want to be put in a situation where a man walked in and a woman in your business.
Yeah, this doesn't put any responsibility on the business at all. It's a criminal statute, and it puts the responsibility on the person who feels that they've been violated to file charges.
Yeah.
So
yeah. One thing that I always found fascinating, because sometimes you say, sometimes you don't know if the man is a woman, or sometimes you don't know that transgender woman is actually a man, because they did such a great job at presenting as a woman. And I would posit, well, if they did such a huge job that they look like a woman, 24/7, then no one's going to know when they walk into to a woman's restroom or not. And so they basically spent quite enough money doing so much surgery that they got away with it. So I don't think that they're going to be worried. I mean, we've seen those transgender folks out there that look, they look like women, hands down, just in passing. So I don't think that they're going to be affected with this at all, unless, of course, something untoward happens, in which case we shouldn't be allowing that to happen anyway. All right. Well, what do you think, Representative? How do you think this is going to go about in a full hearing? Do you expect a lot of people to turn out for this kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be quite a turnout, and I have quite a bit of testimony lined up. This is not an isolated case here in Sandpoint. I actually are there in Sandpoint. I have handwritten testimonies. I have emails. I have phone calls. And so we're going to be providing quite a bit of testimony showing that this is not, we're not talking about an isolated incident. And then there's fact sheets that point out that this has happened, for example, in, pardon me while I rifle through my information here.
Of course.
You know, being a pro gun guy, I'm going to rifle through it. So University of Pennsylvania, Fairfax County, Virginia, Los Angeles, Arlington County, Virginia, Missouri, California, Washington. Those are just some. And then there's quite a few that have happened in Europe and Australia, United Kingdom. So this is not, it's new to our culture. It's only been about the past 10 years, but it's very new to North Idaho.
Yeah.
And this is not to address a single activity or a single happening. This is to address an ongoing problem. Men have figured out another way to invade women's safe spaces, and this purports to stop that. That's my intention.
Yeah. Well done, Representative. Thank you so much for bringing this forward. The bill was just printed today, so it'll probably have to wait a minute to get to a full hearing, but I'm sure it's in the queue, and we will definitely be paying attention on that. How can people follow you and keep track of your work?
Well, I'm on Twitter at let me look and see what my handle is. CS Razor. CS Razor is my handle. And then on Facebook, my name, Cornell Razor. And then there's my state representative page, Cornell Razor for Idaho, state representative for Idaho. And they can keep track of me there. They can, if they send me a message on Facebook, they can be put into my newsletter or my Substack. I send out a newsletter. Maybe you've seen what I put out on Facebook every week at the end of Friday afternoon. I put out what I call my session report. And that's been pretty well received. I have a lot of people following that as well.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, we'll let you get back to it. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. You have a great day,
take
man.
care. You too. All right. Excellent, folks. Well, that's, we'll keep tabs on that bill. There are a lot of stuff going on in committee this afternoon, so we encourage you to make sure you do that. One note, today in the Senate Resource and Environment Committee, which happens at 1:30 Boise time, 12:30 in the north, Senator Nichols looks like she's presenting an RS to deal with cloud seeding. Cloud seeding in Idaho. So, well, we've hit the bottom of the hour here, and I want to make sure that you are sent off properly with a little good music here. So, no breaks today. We rode right through from the top to the bottom. No breaks at all on this machine here on a Monday. It is we're willy-nilly just going through it all. So yeah, again, today in the Senate Resource Environment Committee, a bill on cloud seeding, and then also in the Senate, what is it, over Senate Health and Welfare? Where is it? Maybe not. I don't know. Head over to those pages and check them out. Oh, you got it up here. Very good. All right, folks, a reminder to give us a call. 208-402-4915. We do have a couple messages in the queue. We didn't get to them today, but we'll play them for you and make sure that we get your voice out there. Also, if you want to listen to us looping live, idahosignal.live is where you listen to the show, the most recent broadcast, if you want to keep your data low. Hey, I think we hit 6,000 already over on Idaho Signal's YouTube channel. I think we hit. It was pretty good. And also, we're brought to you by the American Smoke Company for your smoked salts. Folks, I'm telling you, I was talking this up at a Super Bowl party yesterday. There was a chili cook-off, and I was talking about these smoked salts, and people were like, what a great idea. What a great idea to smoke salts and use them. And it is a great idea. So AmericanSmokeCo.com. There it is. Get your stash now. All right, folks, from the flag bill to the bathrooms to protecting kids and cutting budgets. That's a Monday for you. We'll be here all week. We'll see you next time as we check out what happened back in time, back in history before the flood. They were drawing rainbows on caves. Take care, everybody.
Church bells ring through the valley air. Rodeo lights, what a life we share. And still perpetuate forever. mountains high. America's heart beats red, white, and blue. 250 years of me and you, yeah. Lift it up loud. Idaho proud, American true. Idaho proud. Red, white, blue. Red, white, blue.
This bill, I think, puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.